So now that we know how to write our two system equations, now we're going to learn how to solve them. Okay, so now we're actually going to be solving them. There are different ways to do it. Today we're going to be looking at solving by graphing and looking at tables. There's three types of solutions. You can have one solution where you have intersecting lines. So for one solution, just go ahead and underline one. It'll be when your lines intersect. Okay, you'll have no solution, or what's called an empty set, when your lines are parallel. Sorry, let's go back to intersecting lines. You'll have one solution, which is an ordered pair, x comma y. When you have parallel lines, there's no solution, which can look like this, a zero with a line through it, or an empty set. When you have the same lines, you have an infinite amount of solutions. So it's the same line, it's one on top of the other, and it can kind of look like that, like all real numbers, an infinite solutions. So what is a solution? Well, go back to your intersecting lines. It's one solution or an ordered pair, okay, that satisfies each equation of the system. The point where the two lines intersect, okay? So let's look at our three examples at the bottom. So this is where solving for y comes in handy again, because you need to make sure, if we're going to graph them using our calculator, that they are in y equals mx plus b. You might want to write that to the side. Y equals mx plus b. So number one, he is in y equals mx plus b, but the one on the bottom we need to solve for. So we're going to subtract 6x from both sides. These cancel out. 3y is equal to, I'm going to rearrange this so it's minus 6x minus 9. Divide everything by the number in front of the y. For our equation, we get that y is equal to negative 2x minus 3. Well, if we look, well, let's go ahead and graph on our calculator. Let's not do that. Let me make sure there's no glare. So we're going to do new document, go to add graphs. So we're here. Remember, f of x means the same thing as y. So all we want to do is type in what is to the right of the y equals. So we'll have negative 2x minus 3 and hit enter. If you hit tab, it'll come up again. You can do negative 2x minus 3. Oh, by now some bells should be going off in your head. They're the same line. So if they're the same line, you're going to have all real numbers. How do we know? If we go back up, same line is an infinite solutions. So down here, we can draw that funny looking R, infinite solutions. So if we look at the example number 2, it's already y equals 2/3 x plus 5. But we are going to have to solve this guy for y. So subtract 2x from both sides, minus 3y. Rearrange this side, so minus 2x plus 12. Sorry that there's not enough room. Divide everything by negative 3. You'll get that y is equal to 2/3 x minus 4. All right. So I know there's already something on your calculator, so go ahead and hit the home button. So we don't have to worry about clearing it out. We can just go home, do a new document. Do you want to save? Say no. Go to add graphs again. So type in 2/3, the first one, the top one, 2/3 x plus 5 and hit enter. If you hit tab, it brings it up and you can type in your other one, the second equation, 2/3 x minus 4 and hit enter. If you look, alarm bells should have been going off in your head again. They have the same slope, 2/3, but they do not have the same y-intercept. So they'll end up being parallel lines. So if they're parallel lines, what we have is no solution or an empty set. So underneath the solution, you would put the 0 with your line through it, okay? So now let's look at the last one, example 3, which we don't have to solve. So let's just go home again so we don't have to delete all that stuff. Hit no, go to add graphs. Type in the top one, 4x plus 3. Hit tab, and then you can enter 3. And now what we have is intersecting lines. So they cross at a certain point. If we go to the table, Control T, what we're looking for is where they cross at. If you look, it's going to be 0, 3. That's where they cross. Let's get out of the table. So our solution on the is 0, 3. You could have looked at the graph and found that, or also from the table. So let's turn to the back, because speaking of tables, they actually make it a little easier. You want to see, where do your y's match up? What's the point? Well, if you look, here they match, here they match, here they match. Well, it looks like, do we have 0 solutions? Do we have 1 solution? Or do we have an infinite amount? If we look, it looks like we have an infinite amount, so it must mean that we have the same line, okay? So these must be the same line. If you're a little confused, this is a table of points, okay? These are your x values. This is your y1 for the first line, y2 for the second line, and you're looking to see where they intersect at. Let's look at example 2. These y's don't match, these y's don't match, but look, here, these y's match, those don't, those don't. It looks like we have 1 solution right here. So remember, your point is x comma y, so you're just going to do 0 comma -2. That's your solution. So these are not the same line. They're not parallel. They are intersecting lines. If you look at the front, it has all your notes right there. These are intersecting lines with 1 solution. If we look at the bottom one, last example, these don't match, these don't match. None of these are going to match. So none of our y's match. So y's do not match, which means we must have parallel lines, and we're going to have an empty set. So using what you've learned today, move forward and work on the next assignment.